Hey everybody, what's up? This is Devin, LaVore, and
LaVore
coming at you. And you know what? We talk a lot and we hear a lot about how God's ways are not our ways, right?
Yes,
I mean, how many sermons? Time. I mean, come on, man. The songs and all that stuff until it hits your life. You know what I mean? And then once it hits your life, then it takes on, I don't know, it takes on a different tone, a different flavor. Mm-hmm. It takes it out of the, oh yeah, I mentally agree with that, you know, God's ways are not my ways. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, His ways are not our ways. And then it's like, and then God starts doing things in your life that are really weird and bizarre. And like, for instance, like right now, you know, I have a very specific relationship in my life that is a really, really difficult one for me. And there's some spiritual things happening in that relationship. And I asked the Lord, I'm like, Lord, you know what's going on. I can see what's going on. You're giving me the revelation of what's going on. Yet you won't let me rebuke, bind, loose, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really want to do it because I know, oh, this is going to solve the problem. And the Lord's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm like, why? You know, it's like, why? Yeah. And then so recently the Lord took me to Judas, and how the Lord was like, did I know what was going on with Judas? And I was like, wow. And right there, I was just like, wow. Yeah, you did. And you weren't binding or rebuking or casting out or anything like that. In fact, you were letting it happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, wow, as a part of the plan of God mm-hmm. for Jesus' life. And I was like, dang. And now let's make it a little thicker and deeper. The Lord was like, I stayed up all night in prayer. And then I came down and picked him to be one of my 12. Not one of the 70. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like one of the 12. And he's like, wow, the enemy just got in there, didn't he? No, I picked him. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, wow. So all that to say, this was the revelation that God was giving me through it. You have got to allow God. First off, you got to yield to the Spirit. Yeah. You got to yield to what God is saying and what he's doing. And when it looks weird and bizarre and it's like, I don't understand this, but you know that you know that you know it's the Lord. These are the people I'm talking to. You know it's the Lord. It's not some highfalutin, high emotional thing. It's like, it's the Lord. And it's really not. It's you or the enemy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who have tested and tried it, that you know that this is the Lord, but it's still weird and bizarre and doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. You know, particularly when it comes to bad relationships, it's like you got to just trust the process. You got to mm-hmm. embrace the process. And you've got to listen and be obedient and yielded to the Spirit of God in mm-hmm. everything. Because you're involved in a workplace scenario where you know there's some demonic stuff happening, but the Lord's not telling you to do anything. In fact, maybe you've tried, as I have, and I'm going to do this. And the Lord's like, don't do that. Well, then you better not do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I feel like the Lord's saying like that, those negative relationships and all that stuff, it's not always the enemy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's God, because God, I was in a work situation where God put me in this work situation, and the entire organization was just full of masqueraded evil. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the top. I met the guy at the top who, anyway, God showed me some stuff about him, and it was like God was taking me through a time. A lot of times God will just reveal stuff to you. Mm-hmm. He will open up things to you so that you can see it, not so that you can do something about it, but so that you can see it, because you can't be attacking anything unless the Lord is leading you to deal with it. You can't deal with it. You are going to deal with a spiritual issue on your own soulish desire, because maybe you don't like conflict, or you don't like the way this is turning out. You don't like the way it's making you feel. And that's actually what you want to take care of. Mm-hmm. God's thinking about way more than just how things make you feel. Yeah. He's thinking of the entire situation and the entire outcome that any move might do. Oh, you want to move to do that and do this thing? It's like, well, that's going to result in this and result in that and result in this. And I see all of it. You only see the part that you think is going to make you feel better.
Mm-hmm. Which is really what Jesus himself, when he was in the garden, it's like, I think so many of us, we would want to start praying away the things, and Jesus, he poured out his heart. Lord, if you can take this cup from me, do that, but not my will, but yours be done. Yeah. And it's, again, that surrendering everything. And he knew, like, this is the cup that God has asked me to go through and walk through. And it was painful. And he knew what was going on. It's not like Jesus walked in blindly. He knew exactly what was going on, but he also knew the outcome of it.
And he knew the surrounding circumstances was not the Father's will. Yeah. But at the same time, him going through it was.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like the reality of the devil was not God's will. No. The reality of sinful nature happening was not God's will. Mm-mm. But he's like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to work through it. And then I'm going to take you and you and you and you who are believers and who trusted me and who have come to put their hope and faith in me. I'm going to put you in a horrible, dark, ravenously wolfy situation. Wolfy. I'm going to put you in a situation that's just full of the devil, and I don't want you to do anything about it. I'm just saying, for those people who maybe are in that kind of position and you're agitated and your spirit is like, oh, I want to do something about this. I want to, but the Lord's not telling you to. It's because you got to just trust God's plan in all of it,
And I think a lot of times in those situations, he's actually using those to work something in yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is just like that greater trust with the Lord, that he is walking with you through things that are hard and are difficult, and especially in a relational context.
Yeah.
It's like you really do have to just trust the Lord that he knows what he's doing. And it's like, I think that's really something God's been teaching me a lot, is just, okay, do I trust him that he's working all things for our good? Mm-hmm. That everything that he's doing has a purpose, and God has what the end results. He is seeing the end. We're just seeing this little portion. Mm-hmm. And I think, like we were talking last night, I was reminded of I guess it was a parable, or maybe it actually the tares, the wheat and the tares.
Oh yeah, that's a parable.
And it's like, it was like, okay, the servants come and say, well, should we like go ahead and tear out these, tares,
tear out the tares. Or they were asking, hey, should we just get rid of the tares? What do you want us to do? And the master was like, no, just let it grow up with it, because you're going to end up pulling out things that are good along with the tares. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, let it go ahead and fully grow, and then it will be known. It'll be very clear, and you can pull out the tares then. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would you do it that way? See, because man wouldn't do it that way.
No.
We would go and tear out the bad stuff, right? We're binding and rebuking and loosing and casting out. And the Lord's like saying, nope, just leave it there. What? You want the bad stuff left there? You sure? It's like, yep, just go ahead and do that. I'm
yeah.
Like, what?
Because it's like, it really is one of those things when it comes to full maturity, you're going to see it for what it is. Yep. And it's going to be easy at that point. Be like, oh yeah, that's not wheat at all. Boom, take it out.
And you can see that happening in your workplace. Mm-hmm. You can see that happening in the school district. You can see that happening in government. You can see that happening in every industry of life, every mm-hmm. area of life. You can see where something you may even have thought was cool, but as it developed, you're like, wait, this is actually not cool. I mean, we just went through something like that recently, where we thought we were in one thing and it was actually something different. We thought we were in the midst of the promise being fulfilled when God was like, no, I'm actually pouring you into a mold.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, that's not what we thought it was after all. And everything surrounding it was not what we thought it was. But it's like, but God led us into it. You know, I think about Daniel. He was in the midst of a horrible situation, and God met him there. I mean, God just led his life and gave him such great favor. Jeremiah, another example, you know, the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You know, Joseph. Even David in the wilderness was in a horrible situation. It's just like, this. How is this your way? It is. This is the way to the throne right here. You're right there.
And I think that's actually David's a perfect example of just yielding to God and what God wants to do. Because David had multiple opportunities to kill King Saul. And all the men were like, yeah, do it. Come on. You can take the throne. You're supposed to have this throne. And David's like, no, I am not going to touch the anointed of God. This person that God has placed in this position until
not God's way.
Until God himself puts me there. That's when I'm going to go forward. And it's like, you know, so we have situations like that where it's like, God just keep following me. Just do what I'm asking you to do. And you're just going to have to go through things.
And so how then do you deal with the agitation within yourself that relationship produces? That relationship, maybe it's a work relationship, maybe it's a family relationship. It's like you can't get rid of that relationship. It's in your face all the time. What do? Well, you just embrace what God's doing. And say, God, whatever you're doing, I am on board to do whatever it is you're wanting to do in me. Because the truth of the matter is, if God's doing a work in you, then he at least is giving an opportunity to do a work in the other relationship as well. You know, like in the a couple of work situations I was in, I actually saw people change as a result of me just being me. I was like, I'm not trying to change you. I'm not binding and loosing and rebuking anymore. I'm just like letting God do what he's going to do. You know, later on, some of these people came to me and was just like, man, you have changed us. You have done something. And it's almost like when Jesus says, oh, you fed me when I was hungry. And I was like, when did we do that? Right?
Yeah.
And I go, I changed you. What do you mean? What did I do? You didn't. That's the thing. You didn't have to do anything because you don't know how your relationship with God walked out on a day-to-day basis, how it is reflected to other people, how they're receiving it. You don't know what it's doing in here in secret that you don't know about. You don't know. Yeah. And so it's like God is doing a work. If God's taken you and placed you in a ministry, hello, I could tell you a 2-year story about that. God placed you in a ministry, and it's a ministry. That's a funny thing right there. That's a whole nother issue. It's a ministry, and it's just full of contentious relationship. And it's like, oh my gosh, this couldn't have been the Lord. Nope, it was. like it's the Lord. You're in it, and he's doing a work in you, but he's also doing a work in those involved.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing in workplaces and all that. So what do you do with that? All right, you just got to pray through it. You got to, believe it or not, I don't know how many are going to receive this, but you're in a position of receiving an invitation from the Lord to get closer and more intimate and have deeper fellowship with him through the avenue of personal frustration and agitation and anxiety and angst. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and it just makes you go to the Lord. You know, because a lot of times maybe we have problems here or there or whatever, and so we go to the Lord. But then we get thrust into a situation that's totally different. What are we going to do? Well, a lot of times in that different situation, people immediately depend on themselves and what they know from the past. But God's like, no, don't do that. Come to me. Come to me. You know, it's like, but Lord, this situation refuses to change. He's like, I know. Isn't it awesome? It's just going to develop. The longer it stays like this, the more we're going to develop intimacy with each other. It's going to be amazing. He's like, I saw that going differently in my mind. I don't agree.
Yeah.
Can't we go tiptoeing through the tulips or something? You know what I'm saying? It's like, why do we have to be here in the dungeon? You know what I mean? It's like, I can think of better, first date opportunities than developing more intimacy. You know what I mean? But But that's what God will do. We walk through this life as lights in a dark world.
Yeah.
So that dark world is just going to always be there. You're always going to be led by God from a dark place to a dark place, because that's what there is, because you are the light.
Yeah.
And if you allow the dark place to snuff out your light, you do the math. You know what I mean? So it's like God wants us to shine bright in every situation, and he's working in us to get rid of some of the smudge, some of the soot that's blocking that light of God from reflecting to us and then through us. Mm-hmm. He wants to have that relationship develop with us. And then it's like when God changes your heart, now suddenly all the situations that have frustrated you, you don't see them the same way. You don't react to them the same way. But it is because of the situation he put you in that you were allowed to have the heart change.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really what we have for you guys today. It's kind of a short and sweet video for us.
If this is your first video, you're like, that's short? Oh, man. What are your other videos?
But, again, we just pray that you guys are blessed and, just use this time, whatever time God has for you in this moment, especially if you're in a place that is difficult and there is contention and maybe you're feeling that pressure. Just allow God to continue to put that pressure and just keep going through it with him, just holding on to him, because you will come out the other side and it really is that making a diamond. You're going to come out beautified in the Word because you've allowed him to do what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And, so I think that's really it. And
doesn't feel good in the moment, but that's the reward at the end.
It is, and you can read the Hebrews chapter 12. That I think is kind of God
it's like
just
bread for us the past 4 days.
Yeah, it really has been. And, so I just pray that you guys are blessed by this. And again, if you do want to help support us and what we're doing, you can just click on the PayPal link below. We so appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And
it is pretty much just like a constant need, guys.
It really is. That's why we have it at the end of our little session here.
Until there's that crossover moment for us. Yeah. Oh, man, that's going to be a glorious day. And that'll probably be, that's going to be God's way, not our way, too. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That there may be an aspect of that, probably an aspect of that. We're like, wow, I don't know that I would have done it that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, But until that point, we're just in a support raising situation. So
yeah. And so we are just so blessed of the Lord that he continues to bless us through you guys.
Yeah.
And so until next time, guys.
It's amazing.
We will see you later.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.